Lisa in the company pays 25%. Annie didn't like it. She felt outclassed. She was determined to pay 30%, so she started working out. She went to the beauty parlor. She kept up her boxing, and it worked. Annie's beauty tax went up to 30%, 5% more than Lisa at work, but it came at a terrible cost. Her card balance was zero. How could she live with that? Suddenly, a colleague told Annie that 25% of Lisa had plastic surgery, and now she looks like this. Annie asked her why. Lisa said sadly that the 25% beauty tax was too high. Her fiancé broke up with her because he couldn't afford it. Annie was regretting the 30% she'd just achieved. Then she was fired from her company. The company couldn't afford to pay her beauty tax. No more money to live on, no more job. Before she had time to grieve, she got the news that her mother had died. But luckily, her mother left her a huge inheritance, but she had to pay a beauty tax to inherit it, because she and her mother were both beautiful. The lawyer did some calculations for her. The final figure was $1.35 million. Annie was desperate. Then Jack gave her an idea. She didn't want to pay the tax. She could just make herself up as an ugly girl. The next day, Annie was in the shape of Crayola. The taxman had never seen such an ugly woman. The machine couldn't even recognize Annie's face, so he waived her tax. Annie was overjoyed. She was going to inherit her mother's estate. But a few days later, the court came to her door. Annie was arrested for violating the beauty tax laws. She was arrested. Future. There's a 30% beauty tax for being too pretty. Annie made herself ugly to avoid the tax, and she was sent to prison. She confessed in prison.
ここに来てから時々考えるんです。もしもっと違った容姿で生まれてたら。
But her fellow inmates, who were also beautiful, told Anne, "We can't give up our beauty after all. All we can do is be as beautiful on the inside as we are on the outside." And after listening to what she said, Annie decided that she wanted to be beautiful inside and out. 2 years later, Annie was released from prison. She saw a girl drop her ice cream on the side of the road. For the sake of goodness and beauty, she first comforted the girl. Then she went to buy her an ice cream. When she paid for it, she gave her 30% more than the customary beauty tax. But the owner told her she didn't have to pay the tax. Annie was surprised when she heard the children behind her calling her ugly. Even the little girl thought she was ugly. She ran away without even asking for an ice cream. Annie looked in the mirror and saw how beautiful she was. How could she be called ugly? Then she saw a TV program. People's standards of beauty were completely reversed. The standard of beauty is always changing. 2 years ago, her face had become a round face. That's why they charge beauty tax only for this kind of image. Nowadays, ugliness is the norm. That's what the first-class beauties who pay the 30% tax look like. Annie couldn't accept this fact for a moment. She lost control of herself and kept asking the boss,
美人でしょ